Udralex Volume 4 Good Manufacturing Practice Guidelines Chapter 8 Complaints, Quality Defects, and Product Recalls. Principle: in order to protect public and animal health, a system and appropriate procedures should be in place to record, assess, investigate, and review complaints, including potential quality defects, and if necessary, to effectively and promptly recall medicinal products for human or veterinary use and investigational medicinal products from the distribution network. Quality risk management principles should be applied to the investigation and assessment of quality defects and to the decision-making process in relation to product recalls, corrective and preventive action, and other risk-reducing actions. Concerned competent authority should be informed in a timely manner in case of a confirmed quality defect with a medicinal or investigational medicinal product, which may result in the recall of the product or an abnormal restriction in the supply. In situations where product on the market is found to be non-compliant with the marketing authorization, there is no requirement to notify concerned competent authorities, provided the degree of non-compliance satisfies the Annex 16 restrictions regarding the handling of unplanned deviations. In case of outsourced activities, a contract should describe the role and responsibilities of the manufacturer, the marketing authorization holder, and/or sponsor and any other relevant third parties in relation to assessment, decision-making, and dissemination of information and implementation of risk-reducing action relating to a defective product. Guidance in relation to contracts is provided in Chapter 7. Such contracts should also address how to contact those responsible at each party for the management of quality defect and recall issues. Personnel and organization. Appropriately trained and experienced personnel should be responsible for managing complaint and quality defect investigation and for deciding the measures to be taken to manage any potential risks presented by those issues, including recalls. These persons should be independent of the sales and marketing authorization unless otherwise justified. If this person don't include the qualified person involved in the certification for release of the concerned batch or batches, the latter should be made formally aware of any investigation, any risk-reducing action, and any recall operations in a timely manner. Sufficient trained personnel and resources should be made available for the handling, assessment, investigation, and review of complaints and quality defects, and for implementing any risk-reducing action. Sufficient trained personnel and resources should also be available for the management of interactions with competent authorities. In situations in which complaint and quality defect handling is managed centrally within an organization, the relative roles and responsibilities of the concerned parties should be documented. Central management should not, however, result in delays in the investigation and management of the issue. Procedures for handling and investigating complaint including possible quality defect. There should be a written procedure describing the action to be taken upon receipt of a complaint. All complaints should be documented and assessed to establish if they represent a potential quality defect or other issue. As not all complaints received by a company may represent actual quality defects, complaints which don't indicate a potential quality defect should be documented appropriately and communicated to the relevant group or person responsible for the investigation and the management of complaints of that nature, such as suspected adverse events. There should be procedures in place to facilitate a request to investigate the quality of a batch of a medicinal product in order to support an investigation into a reported suspected adverse event. When a quality defect investigation is initiated, procedures should be in place to address at least the following: the description of the reported quality defect, the determination of the extent of the quality defect, the checking or testing of reference and/or retention samples should be considered as part of this, and in certain cases a review of the batch production report, the batch certification record, and the batch distribution record, especially for temperature-sensitive products, should be performed. The need to request a sample or the return of the defective product from the complainant, and where a sample is provided, the need for an appropriate evaluation to be carried out. The assessment of the risk posed by the quality defect based on the severity and extent of the quality defect. The decision-making process that is to be used concerning the potential need for risk-reducing action to be taken in the distribution network, such as batch or product recalls or other actions. The assessment of the impact that any recall action may have on the availability of the medicinal product to patient animals in any affected market, and the need to notify the relevant authorities of such impact. The internal and external communication that should be made in relation to a quality defect and its investigation. The identification of the potential root cause of the quality defect. The need for appropriate corrective and preventive action (CAPA) to be identified and implemented for the issue and for the assessment of the effectiveness of those CAPAs. Investigation and decision making. The information reported in relation to possible quality defects should be recorded, including all the original details. If a quality defect is discovered or suspected in a batch, consideration should be given to checking other batches, and in some cases other products, in order to determine whether they are also affected. Quality defect investigation should include a review of previous quality defect reports or any other relevant information for any indication of specific or recurring problems requiring attention and possibly further regulatory action. The decisions that are made during and following quality defect investigation should reflect the level of risk that is presented by the quality defect as well as the seriousness of any compliance with respect to the requirements of the marketing authorization, product specification file or GMP, All the decisions and measures taken as a result of a quality defect should be documented. Quality defects should be reported in a timely manner by the manufacturer to the marketing authorization holder or sponsor. Root cause analysis and corrective and preventive action. An appropriate level of root cause analysis work should be applied during the investigation of quality defects. In cases where the true root cause of the quality defect cannot be determined, consideration should be given to identifying the most likely root cause and to addressing those. Where human error is suspected or identified as the case of quality defect, this should be formally justified and care should be exercised so as to ensure that procedural, or system-based errors or problems are not overlooked if present. Appropriate costs should be identified and taken in response to a quality defect. The effectiveness of such action should be monitored and assessed. Quality defect records should be reviewed and trend analysis should be performed regularly for any indication of specific or recurring problems requiring attention. Product recalls and other potential risk-reducing action. There should be established written procedure regularly reviewed and updated. After a product has been placed on the market, any retrieval of it from the distribution network as a result of a quality defect should be regarded and managed as a recall. Recall operations should be capable of being initiated promptly and at any time. In certain cases, recall operation may need to be initiated to protect public or animal health prior to establishing the root cause and full extent of the quality defect. The batch or product distribution records should be readily available to the persons responsible for recalls and should contain sufficient information on wholesalers and directly supplied customers. In the case of investigation on medicinal products, all trial sites should be identified and the countries of the destination should be indicated. Consideration should be given following consultation with the concerned competent authorities as to how far into the distribution network a recall action should extend. Taking into account the potential risk to public or animal health and any impact that the proposed recall action may have. The competent authorities should also be informed in situations in which no recall action is being proposed for a defective batch because the batch has expired, such as with social life products. All concerned competent authorities should be informed in advance in case where products are intended to be recalled. Recalled products should be identified and stored separately in a secure area while awaiting a decision on their fate. A formal disposition of all recalled batches should be made and documented. The rationale for any decision to network recalled products should be documented and discussed with the relevant competent authority. The extent of shelf life remaining for any reworked batch that are being considered for placement onto the market should be considered. The progress of the recall process should be recorded until closure and a final report issued, including a reconciliation between the delivered and recovered quantities of the concerned product or batches. The effectiveness of the arrangement in place for recall should be periodically evaluated to confirm that they remain robust and fit for use. Such evaluation should extend to both within office hour situation as well as out of office hour situation, and when performing such evaluation, consideration should be given as to whether mock recollection should be performed. The evaluation should be documented and justified. Thanks for your attention.